The afternoon sun glared down on Willow Creek Estates like it was personally offended by anything that wasn't beige. And right there in my driveway stood Rhonda Langley, our beloved HOA president, jamming a master key into the door of my cherry red 1972 Ford F-100 like she owned the damn thing. When the key snapped clean in half with a pathetic metallic ping, her perfectly Botox face twisted into something ugly and real. "This eyesore violates every aesthetic covenant in our community charter," she hissed, her voice that special blend of fake honey and pure venom that only career Karens can perfect. I stepped out onto my porch, letting the screen door slam behind me like a warning shot. "Having some trouble there, Rhonda? That truck's been in my driveway longer than you've been playing neighborhood dictator." She turned Clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield of righteousness. "Ethan, darling, this isn't personal. It's about maintaining property values. Your vintage vehicle simply doesn't meet our standards. It needs to be garaged or removed immediately." Her husband Victor hovered beside her, smirking like the spineless weasel he was, eyes already calculating how much my fine would pad their vacation fund. "Standards." I kept my voice even, the calm I'd learned in 10 years as an MP when every instinct screamed to roar. "You mean your obsession with turning this place into a museum of boring? That truck isn't just metal, Rhonda. It's memories. Leo and I rebuilt her from a rusted husk after he came back from overseas. Every bolt is a promise kept." Victor chimed in, all oily confidence. "The board has authorized relocation if necessary. Pay the fine or we tow it." Rhonda's smile faltered when the key wouldn't budge no matter how hard she twisted. Her authority, that precious little throne she sat on, was being defied by a hunk of American steel. She raised that ridiculous clipboard and brought it down hard on the fender with a sickening crack. A long white gash appeared on the perfect cherry paint like a scar on living skin. My blood ran cold, but I didn't move. I just watched her, letting the silence stretch until it screamed. Her eyes widened at my lack of reaction. So she did what every bully does when cornered. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911 with theatrical sobs already building. "Officer, please hurry. My neighbor is threatening me. He's a big scary man and I'm just trying to enforce the rules. I'm terrified for my life." She hung up with a triumphant sneer. "Your word against mine, Ethan. Enjoy your last night as a free man." What she didn't know was the security camera on my porch had been rolling the entire time in crystal clear 4K. And I was about to make her regret ever picking a fight with a man who knew how to wait. The next 10 minutes were pure theater. Rhonda and Victor paced my driveway whispering victory speeches to each other while neighbors peeked through curtains, too scared to intervene but loving the drama. Then the sirens came, 2 cruisers painting the beige perfection red and blue. Rhonda launched into her performance of a lifetime. Tears streaming, trembling hands, pointing at me like I was the devil himself. "He trapped me here. He's unstable. I was just doing my job as president." The older sergeant looked tired of this song and dance. "Ma'am, what exactly happened here?" I stayed calm. "Officer." She tried to break into my truck with a master key. When it didn't work, she vandalized it. "Everything's on video." Rhonda scoffed, pearls clattering. "You can't record people without consent." The sergeant sighed the sigh of a man who'd seen too many Karens. "Actually, ma'am, in a driveway facing the street, he can." "Let's see the footage." I handed over my phone. The video played. Her fumbling the key, the angry clipboard swing that left the scar, the fake 911 call full of lies. The officer's expressions changed instantly from polite to stone cold. "Ma'am," the sergeant said flatly, "this looks like attempted unlawful entry, vandalism, and filing a false police report. Those are crimes." Before Rhonda could sputter another excuse, the cuffs clicked on. Her face went from smug to ghostly white as they read her rights right there next to my scarred truck. Victor stood frozen, mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. As they put her in the cruiser, she shot me a look of pure hatred through the glass. "This isn't over, Ethan." "Oh, but it was just beginning." Later that week, after the lawyers got involved and Rhonda was out on bail faster than you can say country club connections, the real fun started. I took the F-100 out for a drive to clear my head. The scratch on the fender was a constant ugly reminder, but the engine still sang that deep baritone of freedom Leo and I had tuned together. Halfway down the highway off-ramp, I tapped the brakes. The pedal went soft, spongy, empty, before finally catching and jerking the truck to a stop. My heart hammered. Just an air bubble, I told myself. Old truck. Needs a bleed. 2 days later I came home to a brand new tire completely flat. Not a nail. A 6-inch gash in the sidewall, clean and deliberate. This wasn't random vandalism. This was a message delivered in the dark. I stormed inside, pulled up the security feed. At 2:17 a.m., a figure in a dark hoodie moved like he knew exactly where the cameras were, never looked up. He knelt, drove the blade in, stood, and for one split second the infrared caught the glint of a gaudy gold watch on his wrist. The same watch Victor wore every single day like a trophy of his mediocrity. The connection hit like ice water. The spongy brake pedal wasn't a quirk. It was a test run. These people weren't just trying to bully me out of the neighborhood. They were willing to put me in the ground. While I was still processing that, the official arm of their operation went back on the offensive. Rhonda was out on bail in hours, testament to Victor's deep pockets, and the floodgates opened. Astronomical new fines arrived daily. $1,000 for creating a hostile community environment. $200 for a hairline crack in my driveway that had been there since I bought the house. $150 for unruly hedges. And $75 for the faint oil stain where the F-100 usually sat. It was designed to bleed me dry. The kill shot came by certified mail. Outstanding balance of nearly $3,000. Pay in 30 days or they place a lien on my property. My credit ruined, my home half owned by the very people who tried to kill me, all because I refused to hide the last piece of Leo the First had left. That evening I saw old Mr. Ellison next door listlessly tending his garden gnomes. He looked smaller, friendlier. I walked over to the fence. "You all right, Mr. Ellison?" He looked up, eyes filled with fear I'd never seen. "He came to see me, Ethan. Victor said if I kept consorting with you, the board would file a complaint with Adult Protective Services. Claim I was senile. They'd take my home." His voice trembled. Threatening an old man's independence monstrous. My blood ran cold. This stopped being about my truck. It was about defending a good man from wolves in pastel suits. My 10 years as an MP had taught me one thing. You don't win a war on your enemy's terms. They wanted paper and intimidation. I was going to fight with intelligence. I turned my dining room into a war room, digging through public records every night. A pattern emerged over the last 3 years. A dozen families hit with sudden fine storms, forced to sell below market value. Every buyer? The same shell company. Willow Holdings, LLC. Registered address? A P.O. Box 2 towns over. The following Saturday I sat in my beat-up daily driver watching that post office for 4 hours. Finally Victor scurried in, opened box 214, stuffed a thick stack of mail into his briefcase, and left without spotting me. I had him. But a photo at a post office wasn't enough. I needed inside his fortress. I called my old army buddy Jax. "Deke, I need a ghost. Retrieve some information. No questions." Low chuckle. "Sounds like a party. When and where?" The plan was a Trojan horse built from their own rule book. I submitted a formal proposal to the Architectural Review Committee, Rhonda and Victor only, to paint my house metallic purple with racing stripes and install a 10-foot chrome bald eagle statue on my lawn. They demanded an immediate in-person consultation at my home the next evening. They walked right into the trap. While I kept them occupied arguing about the aerodynamic properties of lawn eagles, Jack slipped through their back door. He found the home office, plugged in his cloning device. The progress bar crept. 10%, 20%, then footsteps. Jax dove into a coat closet just as Victor entered, rummaging for a forgotten briefcase. His phone rang. "Miller, it's me." "Yes, still confidential. The mall project is locked down." "Good, because the guy with the truck, Ethan, he's becoming a real problem. We might need to accelerate things." "No, he won't see it coming. He'll think it's just an accident. Victor left. Jax grabbed the device at 98% and slipped out. Later in my garage we opened the files. It was worse than I imagined. Bank statements showed direct transfers from HOA reserves into Willow Holdings. Purchase agreements for all the forced-out homes. And the real bombshell, emails between Victor and Councilman Miller about a secret city project for a massive shopping mall less than a mile away. Once announced, property values would explode. They weren't running a petty scam. They were engaged in a criminal conspiracy to steal millions in real estate they knew was about to become gold. I stared at the screen, pieces clicking. The slashed tire. The brake lines. The threats. This wasn't about a truck anymore. It was about millions of dollars. And I was the one man who had stumbled onto their secret. The garage was silent except for the low hum of the beer fridge. Jax had left hours ago, but the evidence burned on my laptop like a live grenade. Spreadsheets, transfers, secret emails, a map of pure greed. We had them. Absolute proof. But the victory I expected never came. Instead, a cold, heavy dread settled in my gut. This wasn't a neighborhood squabble. I wasn't just up against an overbearing HOA president and her greedy husband. I had stumbled into a high-stakes criminal conspiracy involving a corrupt city councilman. These people had calmly planned to arrange a tragic accident for me on the highway. I weighed the paths. Quiet deal. Show Victor enough to make him back off, drop the fines, leave Mr. Ellison alone. Or go full whistleblower and burn it all down. I called Leo's older brother Ben, a no-nonsense lawyer. Laid it out hypothetically. His voice was grim. Path A solves your problem. Path B is right for society but will consume you. Can you live with letting them get away with it? I walked over to the F-100. Ran my fingers over the ugly white scratch. Thought about the young families forced out, the swing sets torn down, Mr. Ellison terrified of losing his independence. If I made a deal just for me, I'd be turning my back on all of them. Leo would have laughed at the idea of compromise. He charged straight into the fire because bullies only understand one language. My decision was made. But I wasn't handing evidence to the cops. Too clean. They had made it personal. They deserved to be exposed by their own greed. I was going to set a trap so perfect they'd walk into it smiling. The truck wasn't just my connection to Leo. It was their weakness. They coveted it, the freedom, the individuality it represented that they could never build themselves. Bold and risky, I put the F-100 up for sale for an insultingly low $15,000. Parked it at the end of the driveway with a hand-painted sign. I spent the day in the garage tinkering, visible, looking thoroughly defeated. I didn't wait long. Around noon, Victor's silver sedan cruised by slowly. Eyes glued to the sign. He did a second pass. 2 hours later my phone rang, unknown number. He tried to disguise his voice, deepening it like a bad movie villain. Pathetic. It's still available, I said, letting weariness carry through the line. Cash deal only. I'm tired of the headaches. He bit. We set a meeting at a small nondescript office I'd rented cash in a business park 2 towns over. 7 p.m. Tomorrow. Bring the money. That night I stood in the rented office with Jax wiring multiple hidden cameras and mics, untraceable. Mr. Ellison had his small role. One phone call at the exact right moment. The stage was set. I was no longer reacting. They were about to react to me. The next evening at 6:45 I sat in the sterile office, cheap metal desk, stack of blank papers pretending to be title work. In the van outside, Jax monitored the feeds. At 7 o'clock sharp, a knock. I opened the door. Victor and Rhonda both, because of course she couldn't let him have a moment of triumph without supervising. Victor placed a heavy briefcase on the desk with a satisfying thud. Let's see the title. Let's see the cash, I countered. He clicked the latches. Stacks of bandit hundreds. All here. Now the keys and title. Not so fast, I said, sliding a single printout across the desk. The Willow Holdings LLC registration. This look familiar? I saw you at the P.O. Box, Victor, Collecting mail for your little shell company. Rhonda snatched it, eyes scanning. Confusion turned to storm. Victor, what is this? I explained calmly. The company you two use to buy up houses from the people you find into the ground. You terrorize them with Rhonda's reign. Then Victor swoops in cheap. Neat little scam. Until the secret mall project. The one Councilman Miller has been feeding you info on so property values explode, and you cash out millions. Rhonda whirled on her husband. You told me it was just investing. You lied to me. Victor's smirk vanished. Sweat beaded. What do you want? Right now, I leaned forward. I want you to call Councilman Miller. Get him down here. The three of you are going to sign full confessions. Then liquidate Willow Holdings and pay back every family you stole from, with interest. Victor's hand shook as he dialed. Miller, we have a problem. The guy with the truck knows everything. Get here now. The 20 minutes waiting were excruciating. Finally another knock. Councilman Miller entered in his expensive suit, plastic smile evaporating the second. He saw the terror on Victor's face and the rage on Rhonda's. All right, Miller tried to take charge. What do you think you have? Then Victor started to laugh. A chilling cackle of a man with nothing left. He thinks this is about houses and a mall. He doesn't understand the real plan, does he, Miller? He turned to me, eyes glinting. That slash tire was a tap. The real plan was the brake lines. Cut just enough. Sooner or later on a fast road you'd hit the pedal and nothing. Tragic accident. No one would ever know. My blood ran cold. This was a confession to attempted murder. Just then the office door burst open. Mr. Ellison, terrified but resolute, clutching a ceramic garden gnome like a weapon. Ethan, I called them. The police are on their way. Just like you said. Chaos exploded. Miller bolted. Victor lunged across the desk from my throat. Years of training took over. I sidestepped, used his momentum, wrapped him in a bear hug that drove the air from his lungs. While I wrestled Victor, Miller hit the hallway floor thanks to Mr. Ellison's perfectly timed foot trip. Then a sharp stabbing pain in my side. Rhonda, face twisted, stabbing at me with a letter opener she'd snatched from the desk. Before she could strike again, Jax filled the doorway. Ma'am, his voice a deadly rumble. I suggest you drop that. The letter opener clattered. I spun Victor face down, pinned him. He was sobbing now, pathetic and broken. Sirens grew into a roar. 2 officers burst in, guns drawn, freezing at the scene. Cash scattered, politician groaning, hysterical woman stared down by a mountain of a man, sobbing husband pinned, old man holding a gnome like a trophy. I looked up, breathing hard. Officer, my name is Ethan. These 3 just confessed to conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder. And it's all on camera. The moment the police burst in, the chaotic energy shattered into dead silence. A bizarre tableau of American justice. Guns drawn, politician groaning on the floor, sobbing frauds, pinned under my knee, hysterical woman being stared down by my giant friend, and little old Mr. Ellison clutching his garden gnome like the Holy Grail. The lead officer's eyes flicked to the smoke detector hiding one of the cameras, then back to me. Professionalism kicked in. The scene was secured with quiet efficiency. Victor was hauled up, blubbering. Rhonda, face a mask of stone-cold hatred, was led away in silence. Councilman Miller clutched his arm, already whining about his political career being over. Jax handed the detective an encrypted hard drive. Everything you need is on there. The complete clone of Victor's computer, and the high-def multi-angle recordings from this room. Enjoy the show. The months that followed were a blur of legal proceedings. The evidence was, as the prosecutor later said, an absolute slam dunk. My driveway video, the cloned computer data, the crystal-clear confession recording. The state's attorney and FBI unraveled the whole web. Sentences came down 9 months later. Victor, primary architect of the fraud and conspiracy to murder, got 15 years in federal prison. He wept when the verdict was read. Councilman Miller received 7 years for corruption plus a lifetime of public disgrace. His name now local shorthand for political rot. Rhonda, for her role in the fraud, the letter opener assault, And the original false police report that started it all got 5 years. Her reign as Queen of Willow Creek was officially over. The story made local news. Willow Holdings was seized, assets frozen. Forensic accountants tracked every family the Langleys had bullied. Within a year, checks were mailed, every dollar returned with damages. The disgraced HOA was dissolved in an emergency meeting. A new, simpler association formed in its place. When it came time to elect a board, someone nominated Mr. Ellison for president as a joke tribute to his gnome and perfect trip. To everyone's surprise, he won by landslide. He tried to quit. "I just want to be left alone with my gnomes." But no one let him. His first and only official act. A single bylaw. Article 1. Leave each other the hell alone. The neighborhood began to breathe. Kids' toys reappeared. Basketball hoops went up. Sterile perfection gave way to messy, beautiful life. For me, peace took longer. The cut on my side from Rhonda's letter opener healed into a thin white scar. A permanent reminder of how close it came. For months, every silver sedan made my pulse spike. The knowledge that people I shared a fence with had plotted my death was a poison that took time to flush. One Saturday, months after sentencing, I knew it was time. I walked into the garage and looked at the F-100. It still wore the wounds of our war. The long white scratch and a shallow dent on the hood from the warehouse scuffle. I spent the entire weekend working. Tapped out the dent gently with hammer and dolly, feeling the metal return to shape. Sanded the scratch methodically until only smooth steel remained. Laid fresh coats of cherry red, buffing to mirror shine. As I worked, I talked to Leo in my head, telling him the whole crazy story, imagining his wild laugh. With every pass of the sander, I smoothed the jagged edges of my own anger. With every layer of paint, I covered the scars they'd left on my life. I was reclaiming my sanctuary. A few weeks later, an envelope arrived, not from lawyers. Inside, a simple handwritten card from Sarah and Tom, one of the families forced out 2 years earlier. "We never knew the truth until we read about what you did. Last week we received a check that lets us buy a new home. You gave us our future back." Tucked inside was a photo. Smiling couple with 2 little kids beside a brand new swing set. I stood in my driveway holding the picture and looked at the F-100, perfect again, gleaming under the afternoon sun, not a scratch or dent. I finally understood. The peace I'd been chasing wasn't a place you could buy. It was the strength you find in the fight to protect what you love. It was the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. I slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The big V8 roared to life, deep powerful rumble vibrating straight through my soul. The sound of a promise kept. The sound of justice. So tell me in the comments, was I the villain for fighting back against the HOA Karen? Or was her community standards just a fancy word for theft, corruption, and attempted murder? You decide.